Johnny is with us in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Hi, Johnny. How are you?
Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Better than I deserve, sir. How can we help?
Good. Hey, I was calling. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, if I have a loan with an interest rate of less than 1%, why does it make sense to attack that loan and try to get rid of that debt when I could use the minimum payments and not have to pay a lot of interest and put the extra money from my income into a savings account with a higher return, or a Roth IRA, or some sort of retirement plan where I'm going to be getting, 10% return or higher if I was doing like investing and stuff.
Okay. And so how old are you?
I'm 28, and a little bit of my background. I went to the United States Military Academy. I got kicked out and luckily didn't have to pay back everything, and I enlisted, but I still have that loan payment. So my income's around $2,100 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and my minimum loan payments is $618, and it was originally $36,000 loan. I got it down to about 10.5, so
Good for you.
$10,500.
Good for you. Okay. Well, it's a really good question, and it's asked by a lot of people, and it took me a little while to understand the answer. When I went broke and lost everything because I had too much debt, my first part of my journey was through a faith lens, because I had all these letters and licenses and degrees after my name all about finance that said I was supposed to know something about money, but there I was bankrupt. So apparently I was a doofus, right? And so I
Mhm.
started approaching things first through the faith lens, and I read in the Bible that the borrower is slave to the lender. And I started learning from Christian teachers that the Bible doesn't have anything good to say about debt. So if God doesn't like debt, why would I? Okay, so I quit. I don't borrow money, and I did it on that basis alone. Over the years, that was 30 years ago. Over the years, I also have approached it through the lens of mathematics or academia, so here's what I have discovered. When you say, all right, I could invest in a mutual fund at 12%, why would I ever pay off my house at 3%? Because I could use that money and invest it at 12 or 11 or whatever, and I'm going to make an 8 or a 9% spread. And that's the essence of your question, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess, talking about a house or something
Well,
like
or
that, I guess
whatever,
would be a little bit
whatever
different.
the
But
debt. Anytime I can
yeah,
borrow money at a cheaper rate than I can invest it, why would I ever not do that as much as I can do it? Okay?
yeah,
And the
yeah,
way
that's
to
the
explore
simplest
that
way.
and answer that sometimes is scale something and see if your idea works with scale. And so if you could borrow $50 million and go in debt $50 million in order to invest that money and make the spread, would you do it? And you kind of that causes your heart to stop a second. You go get a little tightness in your throat and your stomach. If you're mature anyway, your stomach starts to move up towards your throat, and you think you want to throw up. When I put scale to the idea, it scares you. Why does it scare you? Because there's risk, and
Hmm.
risk was left out of your formula. Okay.
Right. I
And
guess
so, and
so.
the honest truth is, there's actual mathematical ways to insert risk into the formula. Let me give you a little lesson here on mutual funds. Okay. An aggressive growth stock mutual fund is very volatile. If you were to map it, it goes way up and way down like a super crazy roller coaster. The difference in the top of that mountain and the bottom of that valley, mathematically, in a statistical measure, is called a beta. The greater the
Mhm.
beta, the greater the volatility, the greater the risk of the mutual fund. And so if you have an aggressive growth stock mutual fund with a beta of 2, which will take your breath away, or you have and it makes a 26% rate of return, you do not compare that, if you are sophisticated, apples to apples with a growth and income mutual fund, which has a beta of a point 0.5, meaning the kiddie roller coaster. Okay?
Right.
And so you don't compare 26% with 12% without adjusting for risk, and you use an inverse formula in mathematics with that beta and adjust for risk, and then you can measure these things accurately against each other, risk adjusted. You have no risk adjustment in your formula, so your formula is wrong.
Right. I understand that.
Okay, so don't borrow money. because you're not risk adjusting on your theoretical concept, and you're making $2,200 or $2,100 a month. And the second piece of data that you want to do is the study that we did here. And as we studied millionaires, Christy, and we studied 10,167 millionaires, we did not find any of them that said the way I became a millionaire was by not paying off low-interest debt and investing the money.
Yeah.
Not a single one out of 10,167 that we interviewed.
Right.
And there were Ramsey millionaires and white space millionaires, meaning they don't even know who I am or we are. And so if the real millionaires aren't doing that to become wealthy and your formula is wrong, both of those things tell you, don't do this crap.
Yeah. I think people get caught up in the math, and it's not that the math is not important. Math
They didn't get
is
caught
important.
up enough in the math.
It's about the motivation, the momentum of one thing at a time in the baby steps. But the other thing I want you to account for, and you talked about this with risk, Dave, the thing that I think people miss is in debt, any type of debt with the risk, you're losing power and control and options. When you own things, when you save and put your money in savings, when you are debt free, then you have more power, more control, and more options. And everything we teach is about increasing your power and control and decreasing your risk.
Well, because when you do, you increase your probability of becoming wealthy.
Yes.
And you don't have to start over again like I did because I was stupid and deeply in debt.
Right.
And
you
so
don't owe anyone anything.
You know, my risk meter was broken. I think when they get you in the real estate business, they take a hammer to your risk meter and just break it. Because all these real estate investors, they do not perceive the risk of the leverage.
Yeah.
And they just buy, we had all these seminars going on in the 80s, nothing down real estate. The guy went chapter 11 that wrote the book,
Yeah.
And so, and all these, I was running into a guy the other day, I had forgotten the name. There was a nothing down seminar on TV, on the first infomercial was a guy named Dave Delgado.
Okay.
And I ran into him at this he owns a big house in Cabo when I was visiting down there the other day. And it's like he has a big winery and all this stuff, but he made all this money from the infomercial, not from real estate.
Not from the real estate.
So, real estate's fine, but here's the thing. Debt is not the shortest path to wealth because of the risk factor. That's what it comes down to, Johnny. Now, you can try it and be a hardhead if you want, but that's the answer to the question. This is The Ramsey Show.